Happy New Year's, everybody. We're coming off an incredibly crazy 2021 real estate market. So, in light of that,
we thought it would be a really fun game for us to tell you guys what our predictions for this upcoming 2022 year are for the Durham real estate market.
So, here is the Inner Circle 2022 predictions.
Starting with number one, let's talk about what our prediction for prices are moving forward into 2022. Jane, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I don't think that we're going to see the same increase in house prices that we did in 2021, which was astronomical at 33% across the Durham region. I do, however, think that we will still see an increase of double digits. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 11% year over year.
And how do you see that increase breaking down over time?
I think we're going to see strong increases in the first and second quarter, and then it plateauing a little bit by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to come down to what the government decides to do with interest rates, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But if you want to know my prediction, I think we have already seen things get off to a blazing start. There's just no inventory and there's a ton of demand. I think we're going to have a very strong first quarter, and hopefully by the spring market, we do start to see some more inventory pick up. I think end of year, we will be year to date above where we were in December of 2021. But I do think we're going to reach the peak of our market probably in April and then start to see things taper downward from there.
Give us a number, Peter.
I'm going to say year over year, we're up 9%.
Secondly, we're going to talk about the number of sales. Peter, what do you think that's going to look like this year?
Well, I think we're definitely going to see a decrease in the amount of transactions. I think a lot of people who wanted to get moving have already done that in 2020 and 2021. I think a lot of moving this year may be out of necessity, and unfortunately, it's more difficult for first-time buyers. So I think if I'm putting a number on it, I'm saying that we maybe see 80% of the transactions that we saw in 2021 now in 2022.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that we're going to see fewer sales this year. That said, we're coming off a record-breaking year for number of transactions. So, 80%?
Sounds about
I want
right.
to say 85.
85. Close enough. Okay, so for number 3, Jane, where do you think we're going to see the biggest increase in value in regards to property type?
Definitely it's the year of the condo. There are so many people that are priced out of the freehold market and also downsizers. So I think that we're going to see the biggest increase in value property type. It's going to be a condo.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that condos are still accessible for a lot of first-time buyers. Generally, I think we've seen the freehold market get a little bit out of hand. We're seeing townhouses now selling for over $1 million here in Durham, and that puts a lot of buyers who are trying to purchase with less than $200,000 as a down payment, puts them in a position where they're really only able to look at condo townhouses and condo apartments. So I agree. I think there's going to be a ton of movement as more and more buyers try to rush into the market before everything hits above that $1 million price point.
Okay, number 4, interest rates.
There's a lot of conversation right now about interest rate hikes for 2022, and it's not a matter of if, but when and how many. We've seen a lot of pressure that the banks are putting on the Bank of Canada to increase interest rates to try and slow down the market, but also to combat inflation. Now, we've heard reports ranging anywhere from 1 to 6 interest rate hikes in 2022. I think 6 is a little bit on the extreme side. If I was to predict, I think maybe 1.25, bringing us to about 4, seems like it should do an efficient enough job while also not completely dismantling
The market. Yeah, I'm going to predict 3 interest rate hikes, and I'm also going to say, like, is it going to cool the market? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Is it going to be enough? No.
Yeah, fundamentally, you guys hear this from us again and again, but we really have an inventory issue, and until that gets resolved, I think demand for housing is still going to be at an all-time high. We have a growing population. We have growing immigration numbers. The government's trying to hit pretty lofty projections, and these people need places to live. So fundamentally, it does still break down to an issue of inventory. And that's going to bring us into topic number 5, which is, do we foresee any government intervention here in 2022?
So I think, and if I'm making a prediction, I think that they're going to make some changes to the CMHC and down payment rules. I think they're going to have to, with average prices exceeding $1 million. I mean, that's a tough down payment to scrape up if you're a first time buyer to get to that $200,000 mark. So I think that we're going to see some changes to policy with respect to the down payment requirements.
I mean, that's definitely going to make things much more accessible for first time buyers. Once you hit that $1 million price point, your down payment requirement increases by $125,000. So I think that's a necessity no matter what, just because of what we've seen in the market. To follow up with that, I think a lot of the market here in Durham has been driven by investors. And while I do think investors are an important part of our market, I do think that we're going to see an implementation of potentially a larger down payment requirement, allowing these investors to actually get into the market and purchase. So right now, if you're not buying your principal residence, you are required to put a minimum of 20% down. I can see that number getting as high as 35%, just trying to grant a little bit more accessibility to buyers who are purchasing their principal residence and make things a little bit more difficult for, say, the mom and pop investor who are just looking to pick up another property.
Yeah, fair enough. And until they do something like that and implement those changes and also address just the lack of supply, it's a supply crisis. So they're going to have to do some things at the municipal level with respect to easing up on restrictions for builders, just so we can get some inventory into the market. But that's going to take years.
Now, these are our predictions. We could be totally wrong. We could be absolutely right. We can't wait to follow up on this in 2023 and see what we got right and what we got wrong. But if you guys have any opinions at all, please feel free to share them with us. This is beyond just guesswork. It's a conversation and it's constantly evolving. So we have our boots on the ground here in Durham, but wherever you are in Canada, we would love to hear what your opinion is on the market and where you think it's going to go in 2022.
And that's it for the Inner Circle predictions for 2022 real estate market in Durham.
See you guys.